Good afternoon. So yesterday we learned about solving absolute value inequalities, okay? So if we look at something like the absolute value of 2x minus 1 equals negative 9. So yesterday we learned how to separate that into two problems because there's one where the answer can be, oops, that can't be negative 9, sorry, positive 9. That was undefined, wasn't it? Can't equal negative. All right, so we had one where this answer would equal 9, but then we can also have this equal negative 9 because the absolute value of negative 9 is 9. So we break it into two parts. We do 2x minus 1 equals 9, and then we break it into finding the negative value, right? So here, just like before, we add the 1, we have 2x equals 10, divide by 2, and one of the x values is 5, because if I plug 5 in here, that'll be 10 minus 1 is 9. So here we learned that we want to get rid of this negative on this side by multiplying both sides by negative. So negative, negative, or you could make that negative 1. It's the same thing. Negative and a negative would give you a positive 2x minus 1. But then negative 1 times 9 is negative 9. And essentially we're just changing this equals to a negative, right? So then we're going to add the 1 over, and we'll have 2x, make sure that my head's not in the way, 2x equals negative 8, and then divide by 2. And then x is negative 4. So we have two values of x, negative 4 and 5. And again, if I wanted to plug in that negative 4 up in my original problem here, they give me negative 8 minus 9, which is negative 9, and the absolute value of negative 9 is 9. So we're going to take that one step further tonight. We're going to put an inequality in there, okay? So the same concept goes with this. We're going to get a number that is less than or equal to 6. But then we could also have a positive or a negative too, because the absolute value would give you a positive, right? So we're going to approach this the same way. We're going to write my x minus 3 is less than or equal to 6. But then we're also going to make a negative 1. So we have negative x, hello writer, minus 3 is less than or equal to 6. Okay, so we're going to solve this. Just add your 3 on over. And having our time writing. So x is less than or equal to 9, right? And if I plug that in, that would give me 6, right? 6 is less than or equal to 6. Now here, we need to get rid of that negative, right? So we've got to multiply by a negative, or you can even say negative 1 if you like that better. So negative negative makes this x minus 3. Negative times 6 equals minus 6. Now here's the important part. What happens to this sign when you multiply by a negative? It switches. A lot of you guys missed that the other day on your ticket out the door. So when we multiply this through, we have to make sure that we remember to switch these two signs. So then we're just going to add the 3. And this will give me x is greater than or equal to negative 3. So if I plug negative 3 in here, that gives me absolute value of negative 6, which is 6. And then we can graph it. I have x is less than 9, less than or equal to 9. So here's my 9. So I put a dot there, includes it. And then I have x is greater than negative 3. So all these values can be plugged in for x. That looks like a funny thing now. All right, so I can plug in 0 here, and I get negative 3. And the absolute value of negative 3 is less than equal to 6. Okay, so all these values will be our possibility for x. All right, let's do one more quick one. Now here we have this equation. And again, there's two values of x, okay? So these act as brackets, right? So but I have the absolute value here, so I want to get rid of this. So the opposite of timesing x minus 1 by 2 would be dividing. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this 2 before I start any math at all. So 2 over 2 is 1, which just leaves me the absolute value of x minus 1. And then 14 over 2 is 7. So I'm going to simplify this equation before I deal with this absolute value. And I want the absolute value alone. I don't want other stuff going on. So we need to do any other math outside of this. Key here. Make yourself a little note. Any other math outside of this, get it down to the absolute values before you start finding x. Okay. So now we're just like before. We have x, minus 1 is less than 7. And then we have to do the negative. X minus 1 is less than 7. So solve this, really easy, just add the 1. And x is less than 8, right? And then here, to get rid of that negative, we multiply by negative. So this is going to be x minus 1, because these become positive. And then this is going to become negative, so I must switch this around. Okay? Then we'll just do some solving here. Add the 1. And we have x is greater than negative 6. So I could plug this in here, and that would give me negative 7. The absolute value would give me 7, right? Times 2 is 14. But it says less than that. So I can't actually plug in negative 6. It says, negative 6, I have to plug in something greater than that. Because this does not include 6, so you can't plug this in. Because it has to be something bigger than 6. All right, so we're going to graph this. We have an open circle here on negative 6 and an open circle here on 8. It's less than, which is this way. It's greater than, which is this way. It's all in between. Did I say less than negative 6? I can't remember. Anything bigger. So this means I could plug in negative 5 and it would work, because if I plug in negative 5, that would give me negative 6, which is 6, absolute value, times 2, which give me 12. Or if I plugged in 0 here, this becomes 0 minus 1, right? And then this becomes 2 times the absolute value of negative 1, which we know is 1. So that's 2 is less than 14. That's a true statement, so we know it works. Okay? So a couple quick things. Get rid of the math first. You have to find the positive and negative answer, and then you do the number line. So let's have you try a couple of those. I'm going to have you try this one. We'll make that a little bit bigger for you. Okay. So you should have 2 answers. So that'll be the first one. And then I will have you try this one right here. And we'll talk about it tomorrow. Have a great night.